Well, a lot of folks have been asking for a ELRS PWM based receiver with a built-in gyro, and I am been fortunate enough to have my hands on one right here. This is a prototype from HelloRadio. It's an HR7 EG that has an integral gyro, and a good friend of mine, Francisco Arzu, one of the developers that does a lot of EdgeTech stuff, the DSM tools, and has been tasked with writing the firmware for it. And he was nice enough to send me one of these to do some testing with him, help him, and see if I found any bugs or anything like that to help him. And so I've been having some fun with this thing, checking it out, and I wanted to give you a little sneak peek of what you can expect with this. It's not on the market yet, but hopefully soon this will hit the market and you'll be able to get this. Now the sneak peek I've got is going to have basically experimental firmware for the Lua script, and it's also got the firmware for the receiver is still in active development. So a lot of what you see here may end up changing by the time this hits the market, but should give you an idea of what to expect and what its capabilities are. I've got my desktop test model here that I'll be doing some demonstrations with, and my Radiomaster TX16S that I'll show you around the Lua script and let you see the menus and what you can, how you can configure this thing. So let's take a look. Now this is not a how-to tutorial on how to set this up, because a lot of this is going to change by the time it hits the market, but just a sneak peek. So I'm going to show you around. I'm not going to show you how to set everything up. We'll go through the menus and I'm going to configure a few things, but just to give you an idea of what's there. Now I've already got this bound to my radio, and I've already set up my base model here. All that is the same as it would be with any receiver. So I've got that set up, just so you can see here. I've got my ailerons configured, got elevator, got the rudder set up, and you make sure you got the channels already set up correctly. So all that's set up initially. You always want to do that, of course, and then once that's configured, then you can get into set up the gyro and all that stuff. So let's jump into the Lua script and I'll show you around that. Alright, so this is based on the ExpressLRS 4.0. Obviously everything's moving that direction, so this is 4.0, but it's a branch off the 4.0 for the Lua script. So let me go into the system. This one's named ExpressLRS 17 Gyro. I just gave it that name. It's a branch off the standard one. There's my standard one over here. But it's basically Francisco's set this up so it's got extra embedded menus structures, so it'll handle the extra gyro menus that you have with this receiver. I'm assuming this will get implemented into the standard release at some point, but I don't know when. This won't really do much good to have it, but you can get it off the Francisco's GitHub page, the same place you get the DSM suite and tools and all that. But that's in there. So let's go into that and take a look. Obviously this is the same as it would be with pretty much any of them. What we're going to do is scroll down here to other devices, and then you can see the receiver there, the HR7 EG. Now what you'll have is an additional gyro menu down here that you wouldn't normally have. Before we jump into that, one of the first things you want to do, obviously, just cover the bases here, disconnect your prop or take your prop off before you start doing this. If you're watching this later when this is out and you're actually trying to use this as a tutorial, it may not be that helpful. Some of the menus may have changed, but take your prop off, go into the output mapping, and make sure all the channels are properly mapped so you don't have any unexpected surprises if you go to move your aileron and the prop starts or something like that. So let's make sure that's set up first. I've got mine set up as an AETR setup. So let me go to channel 1. I just want to make sure that as of right now everything's channel 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4. So output channel 1 is mapped to input channel 1. That's what I want. Go to channel 2. 2 is mapped to 2. 3 to 3. 4 to 4. I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4 for this demonstration, and then I'm using 9 and 10. So let me just check those out. So there's 9 and 10. Okay, so these are mapped okay for this purposes. So you want to make sure you always check that to make sure that you don't have any surprises. If you haven't already set that up, if you got a new receiver, you want to make sure you check that. Alright, so let's go into the gyro menu and see what you get with this new one here, or where we're at currently. This is version 1.06. No idea what version it'll be at when it finally gets released. Been experimenting. Let me turn that off for now, just so that start from where you would normally be. Gain sensitivity is probably going to be default at 1 when you first boot this up. I've been playing around with it. So initially, let's go first to the model setup, and then I'll show you the menus in there. You've got a quick setup, which is going to be good for just establishing your base wing type and tail type. But let me go through these menus real quick. F mode switch. This is going to define what your modes are. You can do up to 5 with various input values. On a simple 3-way switch, you're going to get -100, 0, and +100. So you can have these 3. So what I've been using is the position 1, -100. I've had that just off, so gyro off. You know, so when I go airborne, if something goes haywire with the gyro, I can always turn it off. Position 3, currently called rate mode. That is up in the air on what that may be called. If you're familiar with Spectrum, that's going to be similar to your AS3X mode, which is just wind mitigation or stabilization. And then my third mode would be auto leveling, like your safe mode if you're familiar with Spectrum, but it's auto leveling the plane. There are other modes you can select, and you can make fine adjustments to each of these modes as well, obviously, but these are establishing your 5 different modes that you want. I'm not currently using anything for position 2 or 4. You could use special functions and the 6-way buttons, or things like that to take advantage of these other 2 modes if you want. But I think most people are going to be fine with just the 3, and that's done with the simple 3-way switch. Okay, so that's okay for now. Let's back up out of that. Channel functions. We've already established that we had channel 1 mapped to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, etc. This is where you establish for the gyro what channel does what. And this is important so it knows when the gyro moves what control surfaces it's going to operate. So this one I've got set output channel number 1. You click on that, or select that, and then you can tell it what control surface that works, and then if it needs to be inverted or not. So if the gyro moves the control surface the wrong direction, you can invert them from this screen. Let's go to channel number 2. This is my elevator, since I am AETR. Channel 3 is going to be throttle, so it's set for none. It doesn't do anything from the gyro. Channel 4 is going to be my rudder, or yaw. So there's rudder. And the other, I'm not using channel. I use channel 6 on this model as a flaps, but there's nothing for the gyro to do with flaps, so there's nothing in there for that. The other ones I want to double check for, I'm using channel 9, which is kind of the default for your flight modes. That's what I've got set here. If you're using a different channel, you can set that up here. And then when you get to that output channel, then you can select function, and then you can select what you want it to do. Gain, VTEL, Aileron, rudder, elevator, you can select whatever you want that channel to do. I'm using channel 9 for node mode. And then the last one I'm using is channel 10 for the gain. I've got that mapped to my left slider. So I just set channel 10 to gain. You can find it. There it is. Now you don't have to use a gain channel. If you don't use a gain channel when you set up each of these flight modes, you can select what the fixed gain is going to be, and it'll just say at that. Once you establish what your gain should be, you'll probably just leave it on something, unless you want like dynamic gains. You can do that. But for now, I'll just set it for that. Okay, so that's the channel functions, and then the quick setup is handy because you can just quickly tell it what your channels are. So wing type empty, because I've manually messed with it. So if I just change this to normal, that's a single aileron. You have the option of double aileron. That's if you're using 2 channels for ailerons. Delta wing, and those are the 3 different wing types you have. So I'm going to use normal for mine. I've got a single channel for ailerons on a Y. And tail type, you have normal, which is a single elevator, single rudder. You have a VTEL option, and Aileron, and rudder only. So those are your options for that. I'm just going to select normal, execute,
Telemetry lost.
So just reset the receiver.
Telemetry recovered.
Reset connection. Okay, so that's gets you through those. Let's go backing up here. Now before you can do some of the gyro settings right now, but it's better if you go and enable the gyro now. Let's turn that on. That way when we're trying to set up the gyro, establish its position, it will it'll know, it'll actually read it. Because if you don't have the gyro on when you try to set the position, you can't use the auto positioning because it won't, the gyro's off. So let's turn it on. And it's going to give us a message here that we need to do the orientation. So let's go into the gyro setup now because we've activated that. Let's do calibration. Well, first let me just quickly show you the F mode settings. This is where you would establish all your settings for each mode if you wanted to. I've been playing with these. There's your your stick priority. This is basically where when you move a stick to a certain position, it will deactivate the game. It makes the gyro less sensitive or less effective, or turns it off entirely when you move the stick in a certain direction or a certain distance. And then these are the gains for each of the different control surfaces. But you got rate, envelope, which is just bank limiting, so it's basically the same options, but it has pitch and bank limits. And then you got your auto leveling, which is the same, but it also has trim and trim for pitch and trim for roll, because you need it to fly straight and level. You need to, if you need to pitch up or down, you do it in here. And then you have a launch mode, which is basically the same as auto level, but you have some up trim on this one to help it to climb out automatically. And there's currently a hover mode in here, but I understand that this is probably just going to get removed. It's currently untested and hasn't been messing with that one, so that might get eliminated, but that's in there currently. So there's your adjustments for those. Let's back out of that. Now we'll go into calibration. So here's where you set your RX orientation for your receiver, like how it's going to sit. So I'm going to hit that, and you can manually set where it's at here. And I'm going to go ahead and change these. I'm going to turn them off basically.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
You set them to wrong.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
And it just basically means it's not established yet. I'm just going to do this as an example because it'll automatically detect orientation. So I'm going to hit detect orientation, and it just asks you if the plane is level. Right now that receiver is just sitting flat and level on the table. You'll just have to take my word for it. I don't want to move the camera, but just hit OK. So it established, and now it wants you to point the nose up. So in my case, I'm going to put the antennas up, because that's the way I'll be using it in this demonstration box. I'm just holding it. Again, you'll take my word for it. I'm going to hit OK with the antennas pointing up.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
Okay, now it's done. I'm going to set it back down on the table. And now you see when I confirm this, it will have populated those positions. See, now it'll populate those automatically. So it knows that the pins are down when it's vertical, and the label is facing up when it's horizontal. So you can have it in different orientations and it'll work. So anyway, it'll automatically detect that and populate that, but you got to make sure you have the gyro on first. If you do that before you turn the gyro on, gyro is not operational, so it won't populate those. Okay, so let's go back. We can also do a stick calibration. This basically just tells it how far your sticks are moving the control surfaces. Let's go ahead and do that. Center the sticks, not including the throttle, doesn't matter. You won't be able to see the screen here, but it just says sticks centered, press OK. Now it says move to all sides, and then press OK to confirm. So now I'm just going to move my aileron left and right, elevator up and down, and then the rudder left and right, and then I'll hit OK.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
Okay, now that the calibration's done, I'm going to hit OK. And I'm done with that. So let's back out of that. And I'm not going to mess with it right now, but you can go into the PIDs for each of the different modes, and you can adjust that. You can tell it what the axis is for that and adjust the PID rates for each axis for each mode. So I could go to the auto level mode. There's just auto level and in the rate mode, but within each mode, then you can also change the roll, the pitch, and the yaw for each one. So you got full control over all the PIDs. So it's pretty cool stuff. Back out of that. Now I think that will get refreshed once I restart this. Let me restart the Lua script and see if that corrects itself. I'm not sure if that updates. I think that might still be a little glitch in the thing. So let me back out of this and go back in and see if that corrects itself. Just exit. Okay, let's go back in. Other devices, HR7. Okay, now it says status running. So there you go. That's set up. Now let me give you a quick demonstration of it moving the control surfaces. Now, just for example's sake, I've got my SE switch mapped to channel 9. That sets my flight modes. So if I have it in the up position, that's gyro off. If I put it in the middle, that's my rate mode, which is just stabilization. If I push it away, that's the auto leveling mode. And then I have this slider currently set up to be gains for the rate. I'll just put it right in the middle for starters. Okay, so I currently have the gyro in the off position in flight mode 1. Let me switch it to the rate mode and get them in the mid position for the gyros. And as you can see, I'm wiggling the receiver around. You can see the control surfaces are being affected. Let me put this where you can see it, hopefully. So right now this is just the rate mode, so it's not auto leveling. It's just trying to compensate for any uncommanded movement. So it's a little fidgety, but you know, as it would be sitting on the ground jiggling it. But I don't know if you can see that. Let me zoom in on a control surface. Okay, so as I'm wiggling it around, you can see the aileron here is moving, and I'm just kind of jiggling it. If I move it to the yaw, you can see the rudder being affected there. And then if I tip it up and down, you can see the elevator activating. Now I'm going to reduce my gain, and I'm going to flip it to auto level mode. And with this, you can see if I tip it left and right, see I'm just tipping it left and right. Let me back up so you can see my hand. Okay. So here, if I tip it, you can see this control surface goes up to attempt to bring this surface back down. Okay, so I've got that reversed apparently, so my aileron's backwards. So my aileron's going to need to get reversed. I'll show you how I do that real quick, but in a minute. So if I tilt to the right, I'm going to want this one to go down to automatically lift this wing. If I nose it down, the elevator does go up to bring the tail back down. That's good. If I go nose up, elevator goes down to try to bring the nose back down. And then, so that's working except for the aileron backwards currently. Let me jump into the menu and I'll show you how you invert a channel. Okay, so our aileron was backwards. Let's jump back in, hit the sys button. We're going to go back into the Lua script. Let's scroll down here to the other devices. We'll jump into the receiver. Okay, we'll go down to the gyro menu. Model setup, channel functions. And we want to go to the aileron. You can see invert option is right here. So we're going to scroll down to invert. We're going to turn that on. It'll restart the receiver. Let's back out of this. Now, just one thing to think about here. In the output mapping, where you're assigning the input channel to the output channel, you do have an invert option in here. But so if you reverse the channel on the output mapping screen, it reverses both the stick on your radio and the gyro. So you got to make sure that you use the right menu for what you need. If you've already got your stick working, you may not want to invert this one. You want to just do the gyro only. So don't get those confused, but they both have an effect on the gyro. Now let me demonstrate the aileron. So if I tip it, now if I tip it to the right, you can see that the right aileron goes down. If I tip it to the left, the aileron goes up to try to bring that down. So that the gyro menu inversion of that channel did fix it. So there's a little sneak peek of this new pre-release receiver that's being tested. Hope you like that. As things change, I'll be sure to share some new updates. When I get this out in the air, I'll do some flight testing videos for you, show you how it performs. Below there's a link to Francisco's YouTube channel and his GitHub page where you can see more additional information on this. And any questions, put them down in the comments below, and we'll see if we can answer your questions. Excited for this one to come out.